but also making sure you connect as well, like you reaching out, making sure you do that stuff for your well-being.
We should give some money for that, so we did.
Also really listening, because listening is the hardest thing you can do.
The paying it forward thing.
And I've been a bit prolific in terms of signing up and sponsoring people and things they're doing.
Somebody drops their wallet, you give it back to them.
Before being really present in the moment, really noticing what you're doing rather than just going through your day.
A lot of people tend to come to me and say, was this worth the time? How did you find it? Have you got any advice? How did it go?
Wanted this, you told me loads of time, play a few clips from the podcast and say, stop crying, let's all go to the pub. InspirationNation, hello, Lee Kemp here again for another week on the podcast with my glorious return after missing a week. Here with Ryan Boniface and Jose Noya, who I'm sure missed me greatly. How are you doing, guys?
Good.
Great, thank you, Lee.
I appreciate the acknowledgement of how much you missed me as well.
I've been demoted back to my second position, so.
Yeah. So does that mean Joe's third?
One of the hardest things that Ryan had to do is trying to get you back on the podcast.
But I'm here. So, I am here. No fear.
Yeah.
We are, of course, thank you for joining us on YouTube, on podcast platforms and Instagram. If it's 8:30 on a Tuesday, you can see us live. Angela, IG Live with Angela, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Right here for the start of the podcast. Again, everyone out there listening, we appreciate you. Follow us on social media at ListenToIN, ListenToIN. So, Jose, what is the subject for the week?
Subject of the week is going to be 5 ways to well-being. That's what we're going to talk about. Mental health, 5 ways to well-being, and that's what we're going to talk about. There are 5. So 1 is give, 2 is connect, 3 is take notice, 4 is stay active, and 5 is keep learning. So what we're going to do is go number 1, all right? So the whole point of this is that I had a little research around this place called the New Economics Foundation, and only 14% of the population actually have well-being in their lives. So I think this is a really important topic. I know we've sort of touched on it, but I thought it'd be quite nice to go through these 5 points that they recommend that gets well-being into their life. So I just wanted to sort of talk about each of the 5 points and talk about, are we doing it, or whether we need to practice it to sort of have a bit more well-being. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So number 1 is give. So do we give anything? So I don't know what you guys are doing, but what I've started to do every time I go shopping, there's a little, like they do those trolleys with food and stuff for people that, collect food for the community, food banks. Yeah. What I've started to do, and it's only probably about the last month and a half, 2 months, every time I go shopping, I'll pick up something extra and drop it in there. And I must say, when you're starting to do things like that, I don't really like to talk about it. I think these are things that I don't really want to talk about, and just do it because you want to do it rather than you talking about it. But when I do things when I don't talk about them, I actually feel better for not talking about them. And I think it does make you feel better. And so giving things like, it doesn't have to be things, it could be things like your time. And I like to give people my time, things like that. So, at work, I'll say, hey, do you want to catch up if someone's not feeling great? So those are the types of things really are, I think, important. So is there anything you guys that because we're going to probably go through these, in our half an hour, but give is the one. Is there anything that you're doing at the minute or you're planning to do, or whether you think this is something that you'd start to do?
I think I like that one's the first one on the list as well, Joe, because I think it's an underlooked part potentially of the whole well-being thing and how it can, when we talk about wellness, you're doing it for other people, but it's a good feeling for you to be able to do that. And there's a couple of things that sprung to mind. By coincidence, and I'll just say now, I was traveling with my children the other day, one of whom is just off camera here at the moment, and they were raising money for charity as they came through the plane that we were on, and it was for I think it was injections for COVID or something, and I was a prompt in my ear of, we should give some money for that. So we did, and I gave them the card and they did the beep on it, and it was very good. I think it's very prevalent in the younger generation around the awareness of this sort of thing. We also did today, we did the food bank thing you said about. So there's a well-known supermarket. We don't like to name brand names. We'll just say it rhymes with Borison's, but we won't make it any more specific than that. And they actually do pre-packed bags at the front of the store with a price on it and says, if you're not sure what to give, just take one of these, run it through the trolley and put it thing at the end. And actually we did it. And there was barely any space on the trolleys to put it on where so many people have done it. And it is, like you said, if it wasn't for you bringing this up, I'd have never mentioned that to anyone, but it's a good thing to do. There's been quite a lot as well at work recently. I've had a number of people that I know it is all through work, I think, where they're raising money for different charities close to their hearts. And I've been a bit prolific in terms of signing up and sponsoring people and things they're doing. So not necessarily giving my time, but a bit of money for it. And then on a less, I suppose, charitable thing, but I do, one of the things I like to think I do as much as I can is if someone needs to talk, both personal life or in work life, and they're like, can I just have 5 minutes? Can I talk to you about this? Would you mind if I run and pass an idea of you? Or I'm having a hard time, can we have a chat? It's always really important to me to do that sort of thing. And I like doing that as well. And I like to hope they are all parts of who I am, but things I quietly do, both for the people I interact with, but a bit for me, that it makes me, I feel good about myself that I can do them.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. And actually, Lee doesn't talk about these things. It's the first time I've ever heard of it. So it's lovely. How about you, Ryan?
My grand old age of 26, I don't do my shopping because I still live at home. So those charitable donations that you guys do are not something that I know exist, I guess, but don't come across them that often. But I'm glad you kind of touched on things outside of charitable donations as well, because they aren't the only way that you can give to people.
Absolutely.
I mean, quite recently, like in the subject of work, I did quite a plethora of things before I joined the leadership position that I'm in terms of the role I did before, in terms of development courses, different departments in the department that I work, all manner of different things, and got involved in a lot of different stuff. So a lot of people tend to come to me and say, was this worth the time? How did you find it? Have you got any advice? How did it go? What will I learn from it? How will it greater my existence in this place of employment or life or whatever? And I feel like I feel like I can offer a lot of, not guidance, but honest advice in terms of different things. Quite similar to Lee as well. I'll quite often reach out to people and if I haven't spoken to them like one-on-one for a while and ask how they are, if they need to chat, anything I can help with. Like last week, without trying to dig you out, Lee, you weren't here, and I texted you afterwards saying, is there anything I can do to give you a hand and let me know? On that occasion, there wasn't. So, that's fine. But I think the fact that I put the offer out there is enough for me to believe that I've done enough to put it in your mind that if you did need something, then, I would be there. So I feel like I do that with a lot of people.
That is exactly what you did. I can confirm.
And I feel like I do that with a lot of people as well. So yeah, I mean, they're not always things like that as well. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just calling up a friend occasionally and going, are you all right? Or it's listening to somebody rant, as Lee says, or just letting somebody talk to you, or somebody drops their wallet, you give it back to them. Somebody drops a fiver out of their pocket, you give it back to them. Well, there's so many different ways that you can give. I'm not trying to go on a charity drive or whatever, or a positive affirmation drive or whatever, but you probably do more in your lives and in your days than you think you do. Holding the doorway from somebody at work when we used to all be in offices and things like that, or scanning. I don't know. There's so many different things.
I think that's a really good point you've got there, Ryan. Though, really good point is where we, through the lens of wellness here, when we're talking about our own well-being, is actually taking that 5 minutes and doing a reflecting piece. Joe loves to journal. I won't be journaling, but I might think about it and actually think about when those occasions occur. And you might kind of top up your own wellness glass through things you just did naturally through being yourself. Yeah.
Something that I first heard watching The Simpsons actually was to take a penny, leave a penny jar. I don't know if you remember that episode, Lee, but like the paying it forward thing. I see videos on TikTok or other social media apps all the time where somebody says, I'll buy the order for the person behind me at a drive-through, or it's somebody pays for your shopping if you've forgotten your card or you've forgotten cash or whatever. These things happen all the time, and they don't have to be as extravagant as paying for something. It's holding open a door, it's helping somebody across the road, helping somebody pick something up, they've dropped it. And there are so many things that we all do at home, in public, at work, shopping, whatever, that we all do in the world that we probably don't even realize we're doing, that they help other people.
I love that. No, and there's so much in there, and I think there you go, that when we reflect on those sorts of things, that you know, it doesn't have to be like monetary donations. It can be your time. It can be, hey, how you doing? You know, sometimes
it's simple little gestures.
Yeah. So that's great. So that's number one, give. So number two is connect. But I think we've really sort of covered a lot of that as well, because connecting is not only like saying, how are you, but actually really connecting with people and having that time where you're going to listen to someone, right? How often have you had it where, and I've had it where, and I've done it myself, where someone, how are you doing? And you haven't listened to them really. You're sort of, yeah. And then you talk about what your stuff, right? Where that whole thing. But I think we need to sort of step back and really connect with people. And actually, if we ask how they're doing, you know, really dig into that and go, you know, give them the time to sort of, you know, reflect on that. So if we're going to ask someone how you are, you know, connect. So not only just to do that with other people, actually we should have a sort of friendship group. And and it's really funny, he says, you know, I regard us as friends, and us connecting on here once a week really helps me.
Bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it helps me. I know Lisa says it's a bit of a stretch, but I know deep down in his heart, when he's off there, you should see him. Unbelievable, great, it's lovely. But
Ryan, what do you think about that one?
Connect.
What, connect, or the acquaintances that we hold with each other?
They connect.
Oh,
yeah, what I think is, see what I did there? I cut in without listening to Ryan. That was a joke I was trying to set up and it all fumbled.
Well, at least you tried.
I tried. Sorry, go on.
I think, again, it's so easy to draw on what you do in your day job, isn't it? But like, as somebody that, and you two either have done it or currently do it, that you look after people, or people that are reporting to you, is part of your job is connecting with those people and building those rapports and understanding what they need, and understanding that they may not know what they need, but you may know what they need because you've been there and helping provide them that, or point them in the directions of things, and just making those connections and building those like relationships or friendships with people, or rapports, or whatever words you want to use. You know, I think that's all. It's the easiest example you can think of, or I can think of anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Lee, you got to say something?
Yeah, I agree. No, and like you said at the start of this show, we've got 5 to get through. Conscious of time, I think we covered a lot of this with the first one, and I just agree. It's that, like we said, it's the reaching out thing, taking time for people. We've talked about it over a few different podcast episodes as well, especially the more well-being minded ones, and I think that's a really good one to keep in focus.
And for me, it's like not just like that connecting piece. It's like how you connect, also really listening, because listening is the hardest thing you can do. I think it's a really underrated thing, and people, I listen, but not really. Do you actually really listen? And I think that's something we can all attest to.
So connect.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks for the
job. Number 3.
I get all these, you know me, Lee. I get all these all the time. So yeah, connecting, but also making sure you connect as well. Like you reaching out, making sure you do that stuff for your well-being as well. So you doing it for others, but others doing it for you. So having that close band of people. Who are they? I don't, really, like, you guys are my friends. I don't really have a very big broad network of friends, and so having that, it's lovely to have a real good community. And I'm really lucky to be on Instagram and have a lovely community on Instagram, which I love. So that connectedness with people of like-mindedness. Number 3 is take notice. So take notice is really being in the moment. And Lee, you've talked about this before, being really present in the moment, really noticing what you're doing rather than just going through the day. I can be guilty of this. If I sit down, I mean, I usually try and eat at the table, but lately, because I've been working at home, I've been eating and sitting and eating on my chair. And when I'm eating, if I'm watching a TV, I'm not really taking notice of what I'm doing. I'm just like shoveling down. I'm not taking notice. But when I go for a walk, I really do try and be in the moment. I find that quite a challenge, of taking notice of everything, being in the moment of what does that feel like. Even now, can you just think of this podcast without thinking of everything else? Like even thinking about the next minute, even thinking about the next 2 minutes of this podcast. Can you be totally present in this moment? Listen to this actual podcast in the live moment, and be absolutely present and take notice of what is absolutely all the little nuances that are going on, the sound, the light, all that sort of thing, even the little detail. Even if you look at your keyboards now, can you notice all the little crevices and things you've never noticed before? That's that being present piece, where you actually notice things you haven't noticed. You do things every day, there's certain differences, and can you dial into that? And being present, really noticing about what's in your body, how your body feels, and how do you feel at the moment. And so
I feel slightly uncomfortable with you asking me to look at crevices I've never looked at before, Joe, to be honest.
Oh, Lee, you just lower the tone of this podcast. The way your keyboard, what's going on your keyboard?
Yeah. Whatever your kids are calling it these days. Right. I like this. I think we could do a whole subject on mindfulness, as this thing is called. There's someone who I really respect and look up to who's a big advocate of mindfulness and that being in the moment thing. And I'm not great at it. And there's a couple of things that just spring to mind quickly. One was, and this was again while I was traveling the other day, I overheard a couple of people having a conversation that I know I've had with someone before, and they were talking about, I don't really watch films anymore. It's just, the time just doesn't add up anymore. I could watch a film for 2 hours, or I could watch 6 episodes of a comedy and just bam, 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 and get them all done. And it's, which I relate to, but at the same point, when I step back from that, it's where did the joy go out of it? And Ryan, we were talking the other day, in fact, weren't we, about the fact that we never watch something a second time because there's so much new stuff to be watching. And just when did the joy go out of just a simple thing like watching TV? And it's no longer, oh, I really enjoyed that film. It's, I managed to get through 6 episodes. They're ticked off the list. Well done. What's next? And there's a lot of things now that are just pushing things in that way, which I'm a big part of that as well. And I guess there's lots of things like that steer you away from that mindfulness of being in the moment, because there's just so many things to do next, not just from watching TV, but, in your job, or things you're going to do, or places you go, or, why are you wasting a minute? You could be achieving this. And like we said before, there's a balance between working really hard on your goals and taking that bit of time for yourself. And I think it's a good, almost if you could balance it out, that you're working really hard and then in your downtime, you can just be in that moment, it'll be really, really good.
We can work hard and be present. That's the key. It's like you can work hard,
but that's true.
You're working hard.
And be in that job, do what you're doing at that time without thinking about 10 other things.
Yeah, you actually just focus on things. In fact, actually, before the podcast, Lou was talking to us and doing a Twitter moment. Do you remember that?
I was multitasking earlier. That is correct.
No, but it's that whole thing, isn't it? It's about, like you said, and it's such a culture of, I've got through this, I've got through that, I've got through the other. It was a really good point that now we can go on Netflix and we can just go have a whole season. We just blast through, and actually, did we really enjoy it? Did we really take notice of how we felt when we were watching it?
Or we just go and tick, I've watched them all, well done, what's next?
Yeah, and then you move on, right? And I think it's a really good point. What about you, Ryan?
So a lot of these, it's difficult for me because I don't struggle in a lot of these aspects. So it's hard for me to say that I do this to help me feel better about things. But I guess in terms of kind of what you guys have touched on, I think it's one of those things that time's passed and that you have so much content. I think we were talking about Lee the other day at your fingertips, that you just don't. What's the point of watching something twice when I can then watch something new that I haven't seen before? And I think that's just part and parcel of 21st century life now. Like my attention span is not very good. Like I can't sit and watch a film for the 2 hours. Like I can't sit and watch a Marvel film for 2 hours and not scroll through my phone once, or play a game on my phone, or think about something else halfway through and be like, oh, I need to do that after this or whatever. And it's difficult for me to just switch off in that sense, but it doesn't mean I'm not present. Like I don't sit there and daydream about stuff and somebody has to come in front of my face clicking fingers to wake me up. Like I just, not that I can think about multiple things at once, but I think where we've had a conversation about me being able to compartmentalize really well, I think I can end a thought process in one place and just immediately start another one. And then if I need to, I can come back to that thought process later, if my terrible memory allows me to, and finish off the thought that I had. So it's difficult for me to say that I need to do those things to be present when I don't have that problem myself, to be perfectly honest. But maybe I just haven't thought about it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
possibly, and this is where I reference the Netflix thing, because these things don't go away. It's not yearning for a simpler time. But because of that attention span thing, is that where things like taking moments to be conscious of mindfulness, easy word for me to say, come in and balance against the ever increasing pace. I was going to say rapidness, but I'm not sure that's even a word. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. maybe I have that mindfulness subconsciously by checking my phone and doing something else and break it out. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I haven't thought about things deeply enough to acknowledge, you know. And maybe in 15 years time, when I'm close to your age, Lee, I might
appreciate the reference.
I might sit there and not have a breakdown as such, but think, oh, you know, bloody hell, I wish I'd thought about things more when I was younger. But I don't feel like that now. And I'm sure when you were my age, the pair of you probably didn't think, oh, this will come back to bite me in 20 years time or whatever. You just do what you do, right?
Well, honestly, I totally agree with you, because actually when I got my depression and anxiety, I was not in the moment at all. I was just going through things and doing through things and wasn't aware of how I was feeling. And I was just ploughing through, and I wasn't stepping back, and that did almost like woke me up and made me notice, and that's why I got into these whole things like talking therapies and coaching and all that, and it makes you just have that awareness. And you know, the reason you pick your phone up, why are you picking your phone up? Are you aware you have the thought of picking your phone up, and why are you picking it up when you're watching the television? So can you dial into that one thing and not have to think about it? These are real skills that we've lost. And again, it does show these 5 ways to well-being are real things that help you do feel better. And if you notice yourself and how you're feeling at that particular moment, it does really help center you. I don't get it right all the time, and I'm you know, getting old, but it is something that you can practice. And it's, yes, Eckhart Tolle talks about that moment, and being in the present moment is really fascinating. Anyway, IG Love with Angela. There's such a great, real, a very real conversation. Thank you, Angela. Really
yes, thank you, Angela, for those comments on Instagram. Right, Joe, you've got about, I'm going to say 10 minutes-ish to squeeze in your last 2. So let's go on to number 4.
Stay active. So we know what this is. What do you do to active? I go for a walk every morning before work. I'll go out. I'll go and actually try and do the present moment thing while I'm walking. As I'm walking along, I'm trying to do that and just listen to the sounds and sights that are going around, and just trying to really take it all in and be in that moment. So that's the one thing I do. I always have a very routine that I go out on a walk before I start work. What about you guys?
This is the one on.
Stay active. This is one maybe that we need to work
on.
Right?
That's what I was going to say, and obviously Ryan's alluded to it there, but absolutely this is the thing I need to improve on. And I was thinking about this the other day as well, listening to someone else talk about something, and they were talking about the age they were getting on, somewhere around their 50s. Can't ever imagine being that sort of age, Joe. And they talked about the fact that if you don't keep yourself active, or if you are active then you stop, your body just starts to shut down. It doesn't, you know, your muscle wastage is bigger, arthritis sets in quicker, all those things, because you're not using your body. And I was thinking, oh God, I really need to do more exercise. I need to make sure that I'm keep myself out, because I'm very aware. I always talk about the fact that I don't want to retire, so to speak. I always want to keep work and not working, but I always want to stay mentally active, because again, if you know, your brain's a muscle, you don't use it, you lose it. But I hadn't really thought about the physical part as well, and I started thinking about that while I was driving, that I really need to start getting an exercise routine, and not just a flash in the pan, but ones that's for life. So, you know, when I'm 80, I am physically and mentally as fit as I can be, because I'm not just being very sedate. And at that time, someone who must have been, you know, 60 odd was jogging down the road, and it literally put it in my head. I'm like, that has got to be me. That has got to be me. And I really thought good on him for doing that. But that is 100% in terms of this whole thing, something I absolutely need to improve on, and I dare say has got worse over the last 18 months.
Right, thank you, Lena. It's good. It's just starting small, isn't it? I mean, I used to go running, now I'm doing walking. What about you, Ryan?
We've had these conversations before, though, with me, and I stand by what I said before. Like, I want to care, but I don't. So it's hard. It's hard to think about those.
All this mocking about 15 years time, you're not going to make it, Ryan. So there's nothing to worry about.
100%, mate. And if that's and my mindset is, if that's the time I have to go, that's the time I go. That's it. Like that's the way I see life and things like that. If that's my time, because this is who I am and that's what it is, and I won't reach 40. You may see that as morbid or sad or whatever, but then that's what it is. When I was in my teens or pre-teens, whatever, I didn't think I'd live past the age of 21, and I think I've said that on here before. I just didn't have a plan. I just didn't know how it was going to work, and I didn't see myself growing old. I didn't see myself with a big house or whatever. It's really difficult to explain to people that don't think the same way. And I haven't really.
And I really, don't get me wrong, we talk about being open to other points of view and everything, but that is, for me, I want to be like 200. I really struggle with and I'm sure you do the other way around with the way I think.
Well, I'd like to be able to want that. And in a way I do want that, but I also don't mind if that isn't the case. I don't know. Maybe in that 15-year time, I'll think, bloody hell, what a waste of my 20s and 30s or whatever, or my teens, or however old I'll be, if I ever think like that. But it just is what it is. Like, it just
your
is.
Eulogy, Ryan, which I'm sure I will be doing as your nearest and dearest and possibly next of kin. I'm going to get up and I'm just going to say, he wanted this. He told me loads of time. Play a few clips from the podcast and say, stop crying. Let's all go to the pub.
Yeah, podcast.
Job done. Let's get out of it.
But yeah, as I say, it's 5 wells to well-being, right? So there's maybe something that's missing, and again, we've got to look at these objectively for all of us, right? Actually, Ryan, when I was 18, I never thought I'd ever get to 30. So, and here I am, getting on in years, right?
74 now, and you're still going strong. I love it.
Still going, But yeah, I definitely need to improve my stay active. I don't think I've actually reduced my activity. I was running now. I won't run now. I'm walking. I'm trying to maintain something. I'm just trying to do something. I'm still doing press ups, but it's still not enough. Really, there needs to be more. Definitely for myself. Last one then is keep learning. So for me, it's getting up in the mornings, doing a bit of reading, listen to podcasts. I still do learn. I could still do more, I think. But I think keep learning. I think learning from conversation, learning from other people, learning from you guys on the podcast. I think that's a really good one that keeps, and as Lee said, keeps your mind active. So that for me is an important one. I'm always looking for new ways to do new things. So yeah, really appreciate that in terms of keep learning. What about you guys? So Ryan, what's your thought on this?
I used to hate the phrase "every day is a school day," but it kind of is, I guess. You pick different things up, even if you don't. Again, even if subconsciously you're not aware, you've learned something. Every day you probably will have, and even if it's not a stat about the Cold War or something stupid like that, it'll be a subconscious understanding that of how to chop onions finely rather than terribly. I don't know, because I don't cut onions very well, so that's something that I need to learn. But
I appreciate you being that open and letting those raw feelings out on the podcast.
Nice, because it's a raw onion. I like that.
Yeah, wordplay.
But yeah, as I say, you'll learn something every day, and not that you should seek it out as such, but obviously you can. But if you take especially in this day and age, if you take your information from the right places, you'll learn things tenfold of what you would have done 20, 30 years ago. And we've had this conversation. It's a specific topic that you did, Lee, the Google effect. But I think that was what it was called. I can't remember what number it was, but I think that was what the episode was called. If you want to learn how to do something, you can learn how to do it. You want to learn how to change a lawnmower battery, I think you had, Joe, or a fuel capacitor or something, then you'll learn how to do it.
Fuel capacitor, I love that. Sounds like I'm going to Back to the Future. I love that.
Episode 116 for anyone who wants to jump in the archive and have a listen.
Do you have a list of all the numbers and names?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants that, you can find it on your nearest podcast player or at inspirationnation.org.uk.
Love that.
I'll just quickly on this one, Joe, and I say, because I kind of linked it in the last one, and actually a few episodes ago, I think I talked about the fact that I kind of just bobbled along and then had these series of different epiphanies that kind of leveled up that thinking. And I think that's the physical one. I say not all over. The mental one, I'm very up for learning new things, channeling myself to learn it. Obviously, it's a dark spot for Ryan, but I tried to do a bit of learning around stock trading and stuff like that. Lots of reading, and also just reading different opinions and things and formulating my own opinion. But you're right, Joe, I think that view that every day is an opportunity to learn is really, really important.
Yeah, I think for me, going back to hearing you two speak, I mean, the thing for me is not even necessarily learn from books, learn from the conversation you had with someone and whether you responded in the right way, and learning to respond in different ways. How did they perceive it? How did I perceive it? And that awareness as well. I think that ties into like take notice as well. We're having conversations and listening and all the things that we're doing. That learning, I think, embodies everything of this, actually, to be fair, the whole thing. So it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. The way you can review your day, I mean, the journey I did at the end of the day, or well, what could I improve? All that stuff is learning. but I think being more aware of it and what do you want to do with it. So yeah, so there are your 5. So it's 1 to give, 2 connect, 3 take notice, 4 stay active, and 5 keep learning. So there are your 5 points.
Love them, Joe. Good conversation, some great advice this week. We thank everyone joining us on Instagram. Just search out Jose Noya, Inspiration Nation, 8:30 every single Tuesday. You can join us, get involved with the conversation. And of course, search for that everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Jose Noya, Inspiration Nation. You'll get all your doses of Inspiration Nation. Quick plugs to wrap us up. It's all in one place, inspirationnation.org.uk. Full details of the coaching service. Sign up for Joe's weekly blog. You can get the emails as well. And of course, there is the Inspiration Nation merchandise store. Modeling here, a great hoodie. Joe has one as well. Inspiration Nation face mask. I'm just going to stick mine on for those on YouTube. And of course, mugs as well. Mug shot for the camera.
Ryan hasn't got this? No. Didn't have it last week.
I've had it pointed out by my able assistant that I put my mask on upside down.
I was going to wait and see how long it took.
And no one's even going to notice. Look at that. Sorted. Everything is over there for you. And of course, we appreciate everyone listening, watching, wherever you are. If you leave us a review, hit the subscribe button. We really, really massively appreciate it. And as we were plugging last week with Ryan's interview of Joe, if you want to be interviewed on the podcast, I'd say if you've got a story to tell, but everyone has a story to tell, and we will help get that out of you and get it out into the air. Just drop us an email, info@inspirationnation.org.uk. Say who you want to be interviewed by, Lee, and we'll get in touch and we'll sort that out as well.
Sounds
Any
good.
closing thoughts this week, guys?
Wonder what these epiphanies are going to be that are going to change my life.
So you know what I'm going to ask, guys? Biggest takeaways.
I had quite a large Chinese the other day. It's funny every week when I use it, isn't it? Every week it's hilarious.
Please, everyone on the podcast, everyone.
For me, it's number 4, Joe. Number 4, it's solidified in my head, that keep active bit. I said my head like that. It's got nothing to do with it. Keep active. Run in motion for those on YouTube. Hope you appreciate it.
Keep active. Okay. Ryan, what are you?
I don't know. You do yours. I'm thinking.
So for me is I would have chosen a big keep active, but Lee's had that because I still need to keep more active. But for me, I think it's to keep learning. For me, just to keep still being more aware. So presence and to keep learning for me to make sure that I learn from every conversation, every interaction. That's for me. That's my one.
I think. Don't be afraid to put your well-being first.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
You can't help other people unless you're not helping yourself.
Yeah, nice.
Either one of those.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's a really good thing. Is about.
I've heard our wise Jose Noya talk about that before.
Yeah, that's the one in the airplane, isn't it? Put your own mask on before you help others. You can't look after us. You're not helping yourself. So really good, lovely, and wise there, Ryan. Love that. Okay. That's about it, isn't it, guys?
Excellent. That is. I think all that's left is for me to count us down. Again, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Check us out on social media at ListenToIN, ListenToIN. And of course, tell friends, tell family. That's what helps us grow the podcast. We appreciate you all for doing it. Right. 3, 2, 1. Inspiration Nation. Catch you guys later.
So I want to know now, what's your biggest takeaway? Don't forget to hashtag it with Inspiration Nation in the comments below and make sure you commit to action. So you can catch all our other Inspiration Nation podcast episodes right over here. So go check them out. And also, don't forget to subscribe because that will tell you when your next video goes live by you hitting that amazing bell. So until next time, it's Inspiration Nation, and I'll see you right over there.